Where do the birds go when it's windy? It's blowing hard outside. It has been all week. Welcome, once again. I've performed several experiments this week. I'll discuss them, and I will look at some commonly heard spiritual statements and correct them. In that book it says, "My dear and kind grandfather," exclaimed Hussein, "be so kind as to explain to me why they take the ephemeral for reality." To this question of his grandson, Beelzebub replied, "It was only during later periods that the three-brained beings of the planet Earth began to have this particularity of their psyche. Just that particularity arose in the beings there only because their chief part, which was formed in them, as in all three-brained beings, gradually allowed other parts of their total presence to perceive new impressions without what is called being part Godol duty." This morning I was performing my early practices. If I remember myself or I'm mindful or I'm present, what effect does that have on me? My arms and legs are slowly wheeling through these carefully coordinated movements, and I'm present inside. Is that the answer? Is that what we want? It is not. That is very different from learning. To learn, I have to wake up much further than that. I have to be inside my flesh. I have to move my body to feel the arms, the tendons, the bones, to extend my presence into the body, into the world, into my feelings. That is quite different from being in the present moment or self-remembering. Those things are about being in the still point inside. Gurdjieff means something quite different to that conventional spirituality. He means to be deliberate, to try and learn, and that requires energy. If you are mindful in the present, it's very peaceful, just like being a dead man. But the journey of living, of growing, is like it is for those birds who are fighting against the wind. Extending my presence into all the limbs, right down to the fingertips, to feel the pulse of the blood, and to be determined to perfect and finesse every movement. There, something happens. Now, a few days ago, I was on the internet and I'd seen some bad news from, the Middle East. I didn't want to think about it anymore. But those images were bubbling up inside of me and crossing the threshold and displaying themselves inside my psyche. And I could see that something inside me was trying to squeeze them, trying to stop them emerging into the psyche, trying to keep them down where they would be less disturbing. Who was doing that? Well, it was the solar plexus, or that mind. The head is more like a limb that comes with a psyche. In fact, whether I understand or not, the torso is monitoring what happens upstairs. Quite a stunning experiment. In fact, the first experiment I did after I heard this one day. According to real exact knowledge, one force or two forces can never produce a phenomenon. The presence of a third force is necessary, for it is only with the help of a third force that the first two can produce what they call a phenomenon. no matter in what sphere. It's been easier for me to think about the law of three in terms of conception, man, woman and child, a particular event. But to think that every phenomena is a law of three, I find that quite confusing. And I was sitting as I do at the back row during Mass on Sunday, wondering if I can develop this idea somehow. I'm sitting on this bench. Where's the third force here? The third force is the action of holding me. There is the weight of the body, and I'm being held. That is an action. That is a living moment. On the far wall, on the high altar, that image or that material enters into my eyes, and there is a recognition. That is third. Recognition is the living moment. It is the action. They are the third force. But why is this not more obvious? If I monitor the recognition of visual perception, there's a tasting of the meaningfulness of that. That tasting is due to an intelligence inside, not very easy to transfer. It's a question of maturity. What it means for the functioning of existence. Only a mature soul could understand that. If I think a man sits on a bench, there's two elements. That's how thought works. But struggling with these ideas, and I heard something from Gurdjieff, something starts stirring inside of me. I start seeking and struggling. What does it mean? What does it mean? And suddenly I feel the action of the sitting. Those thoughts that were split and quite mechanical, something stirs inside, and then precipitated out of it is the understanding that the sitting is living, is a living action. And it crosses into a living knowledge, and that comes, in fact, from the integration with the sensing of the body. The mechanical thought connects with the sensing from the moving center to create understanding, and then I can see it, then I can taste it. In fact, if I think a man and a bench, both of those are quite shallow images, because I'm not really connecting with the man himself. In other words, I don't really remember who I am as a person. I just see the outline image. Likewise with a bench. A bench is a piece of wood. It has history. It's been here for 100 years maybe. It's worn and grooved. It has a presence actually. But I don't connect with it. I just see a kind of shallow image. If you wanted to, all your thinking could be green. Instead of thinking in shallow images and waiting for some holy third force to save you, every item in your thought could be illuminated in itself. So much for the experiments. Some passages. The other reason, as I've already said, consists in the fact that no one is concealing anything. There is no mystery whatever. But the acquisition or transmission of true knowledge demands great labour and great effort, both of him who receives and of him who gives. And those who possess this knowledge are doing everything they can to transmit and communicate it to the greatest possible number of people, to facilitate people's approach to it, and enable them to prepare themselves to receive the truth. Well, there are so many different new spiritual groups on the planet. Why doesn't it work? Why hasn't anybody discovered anything? Why do they sit in the present moment or hope for the second coming of Jesus? The formal methods that the traditional schools teach require quite a lot of you. They're painful, and you're meant to do them hours every day. All these spiritual groups are for people who excuse themselves. Gurdjieff's teaching is directed towards a higher group of people. Maybe not to those that you expect, but people who, perhaps like me, have a religious sentiment, but the taste of something different. They're willing to do what is formal and informal, what is religious and secular, what is left-wing, right-wing, what is internal, external, what is physical, what is esoteric. They're just willing. They're willing to be alive. They're living currents. That is Gurdjieff's teaching. Who is that? Who are they? I don't know. Here's a question. Why doesn't spirituality give you massive benefits? Why doesn't it give you power over the world? Why doesn't it fix all your problems? Why doesn't it make money fall out of the sky? Why doesn't it? What's the answer? The answer is, maybe it does, but you just don't do the right thing. The answer is, yeah, maybe it would do that. Maybe it would do that. Maybe it actually would do that, but you just don't understand what to do. A human being's legion. He has been aggregated from many different kinds of materials, with negative emotions, with negative everything. It's not even negative, it's just unfused, discordant. And the price to fuse things together is work, is pain, is struggle, is learning. It's not very easy, and it's not in the mind. You have to fuse it in the body, in the feelings. You have to fuse it where it hurts. And the deeper you go, 3 days in hell. To fuse big things, the price is big, and the results are big. So who can say that the world wouldn't open to you if you did the work? If I walk down this street and I have done nothing today, nothing happens. Are there any eagles left on this planet? You who have defied the law, you who have conquered by subtlety or force, you will I take unto me, even I will take you unto me. I ask you to sacrifice nothing at mine altar. I am the God who giveth all. Light, life, love, force, fantasy, fire, these do I bring you, mine hands are full of these. There is joy in the setting out. There is joy in the journey. There is joy in the goal. Only if ye are sorrowful, or weary, or angry, or discomforted, then ye may know that ye have lost the golden thread, the thread wherewith I guide you to the heart of the groves of Eleusis. The Christmas Tree with Solange Claustres. One year, Monsieur Gurdjieff asked me to decorate the Christmas tree, which he himself always put up, together with one of his pupils, in the group room, in the right-hand corner of the window. Monsieur Gurdjieff put the roots at the top, as if in the sky, the branches spreading out downwards towards the earth. The walls of this room were hung with woven fabrics, little mirrors, braids, trimmings, embroidery, and canvases depicting portraits of various significant people and landscapes. To the left of the door, on either side of a dresser, laid out in strips of braid, was the enneagram. The tree was to be decorated with multicoloured electric fairy lights and shimmering garlands, and presents for everyone chosen by Mr. Gurdjieff himself with each person's name in his own handwriting on the package. I was always very touched by this personal gesture of attention to each one of us. I set to work joyfully, but also with the fear of not doing the task correctly. I took what I remembered seeing in previous years as a model. Ji came to see what I was doing from time to time. A slight but serious told me that he was in agreement. Then I had an idea that I would have been better not putting into practice. To put a star or the moon at the top of the tree. As the roots of the tree were in the sky, a decoration like shooting stars, the moon, or just one star would not be out of place. I began to make a star out of cotton. At that moment, Madame de Salzmann and some pupils arrived to see the decorations, and when she saw my plan, she exclaimed, "Whatever is that?" Mr. Gurdjieff was watching. First there was silence, then he asked me very calmly, "What you do there?" Madame de Salzmann's exclamation had frozen me to the spot. My joy sank to the earth, with no time to see if Monsieur Gurdjieff was in agreement with my idea. At this moment, all that I had done no longer had any meaning for me. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. But later I saw that my star was still there, and it wasn't questioned any further. After all, Monsieur Gurdjieff could have made me take it down, and his very gentle tone of voice had attenuated the effect of Madame de Salzmann's remark. She, it seemed, could only exclaim loudly when confronted with something unusual. Monsieur Gurdjieff did not remove his trust in me. I needed it because, through this very thing, he gave me confidence in myself, and that was absolutely necessary for me. All of Monsieur Gurdjieff's behaviour left you free to think and act. He did not intervene in the process of thought, but helped and provoked it.